You had a plan today, a list, a goal, a reason to get up, and you still couldn't move. Not because you didn't want to, not because you didn't care, but because something inside you had already run out of something essential, and you couldn't name it. That's not laziness. That's something far more specific. And once you understand what it actually is, everything changes. Here's the pattern most people live inside without ever seeing it. You wake up already tired. Not physically, the body is rested, but something heavier is sitting on your chest. Maybe it's an unfinished conversation from yesterday, a fear you haven't processed yet, a decision you keep avoiding, a grief you never let yourself feel completely. And so the task in front of you, the email, the work, the call, feels impossible. Not because it's hard, but because your entire internal system is already occupied. There is no bandwidth left. In psychology, this maps to something called emotional load, the cumulative weight of unprocessed feeling. Researchers in affective neuroscience describe it as a drain on the brain's executive resources. When your emotional system is flooded, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, motivation, and action, goes quiet. Not because you're broken, because your brain is working exactly as designed. We live in a culture that calls stillness a character flaw. If you're not producing, you're failing. If you're not moving, you're lazy. But the truth is, what you call laziness is often your nervous system hitting a circuit breaker. It's not a moral failure. It's a biological signal. You are not too weak to handle life. You are someone who has been handling too much without enough space to put it down. Here's what's happening inside the brain. Think of your mind as a building with 2 floors. The ground floor is the limbic system, ancient, instinctual, emotional. It handles fear, memory, attachment, and survival. The upper floor is the prefrontal cortex, newer, rational, deliberate. It handles planning, language, and goal-directed action. When the ground floor is on fire, when emotion is running hot and unprocessed, the upper floor loses power. Neuroscientists call this amygdala hijacking. The emotional brain takes over, redirecting resources away from executive function. Psychologist Roy Baumeister describes something similar as ego depletion, the idea that self-regulation draws on a finite pool of mental energy. When emotional suppression, chronic stress, or unresolved tension drains that pool, there is simply nothing left for output. This is why you can spend hours doing nothing and still feel completely exhausted at the end of it. Because the exhaustion was never about effort, it was about weight. So what do you actually do with this? Not a 10-step system, not a morning routine. Just 5 honest principles, each rooted in how the mind actually works. 1. Name what you're carrying. Affect labeling, the act of putting words to emotion, has been shown to reduce activation in the amygdala. Not because naming fixes things, but because naming moves emotion from the body to the cortex, from sensation to language, from flood to form. Start there, not with doing, with naming. 2. Stop trying to produce your way out of depletion. When the tank is empty, effort creates friction, not momentum. The research on ultradian rhythms, 90-minute cycles of biological alertness, suggests the brain needs regular rest to restore executive function. Rest is not the reward for productivity, it is the condition for it. 3. Process, don't suppress. James Gross's process model of emotion regulation shows that suppression, pushing feelings down, actually increases physiological stress over time. Reappraisal, gently reframing what the feeling means, reduces it. The emotion needs somewhere to go. A journal, a conversation, a long walk. Movement that isn't about output, but release. 4. Reduce decision noise. Decision fatigue is real. The more choices you make, the lower the quality of each subsequent one. When overloaded, reduce the menu. One thing, 1 hour, one direction. Simplicity is not giving up. It is protecting the little energy you have left. 5. Practice self-compassion as a cognitive tool, not a comfort. Kristen Neff's research shows that self-compassion activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. When you treat yourself with the same care you'd offer a close friend, the brain stops reading the situation as a threat. And a brain that feels safe is a brain that can finally begin to move. Here's the mental model to hold on to. Imagine your capacity for action as a well. Every unprocessed emotion is a stone dropped into it. Every suppressed feeling, every avoided conversation, every grief you didn't let yourself grieve, every fear you keep circling. Eventually, the well fills with stones, and there's no room left for water. The work, real work, is not to push harder. It's to remove the stones, one by one, slowly, with patience, so the water can return. That's what emotional processing actually is. Not weakness, not navel-gazing. It is maintenance of the only system you have. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need to find motivation from nowhere. You don't need to earn your rest. You need to understand what you're actually dealing with, and understand it with honesty, not judgment. The days you couldn't move, you weren't failing, you were full. And a person who is full is not lazy. They are human. Begin there, not with action.